So I had a lovely chat with Claire today. I've been setting up my query letter for one of my novels, and I've been getting like rejections, lovely. And then I was like, maybe it's my query letter. Originally, I had my blurb just from one character's POV. I think I sent it to like a group of people, and they were like, no, because you write dual POV, your blurb has to be from both main characters. And I was like, okay. Then I changed it and I sent out my query letters and I didn't get responses. So then when I gave it to Claire, she was like, why is it from both of their perspectives? In any novel that you write, there's always going to be one character that's a little bit more important but features more, or storyline is more prominent than the others. And she was like, no, this character's more, so I think you should write your query about her. And I was like, gosh darn it, that's what I originally did. But then people didn't like it, so that's why I changed it.
When I was reviewing it, I hit the POV shift and I was like, well, okay. I just kind of rode with it. But then I think my biggest feedback to you is I'm like, there's not enough, like, you're hitting all the beats, but you're not hitting the emotion. I felt kind of bad. I was like, I hope she doesn't get mad at me. But then you sent me your revision this morning. I didn't have time to read the whole thing because honestly, I've been running since I woke up at 7. But I did read like the first 2 lines. I was like, ooh, I already like it more. I need to get back to this. And it's lovely. I think you're on the right track. So today I'm doing strawberry kiwi.
Ooh, I take your strawberry kiwi and I raise you a ginger tea.
You're going healthy.
Listen, every week is a different surprise because I'm like eeny, meeny, miny, you. So I never know what I'm going to drink.
I love it.
Alrighty, are we ready for this episode?
I am ready.
Hi, let's go. Welcome to Tea Tales. We are so happy to have you here. I'm Madeline, I know.
And I'm Sarah Sampson. We especially want to thank Stephanie and Ministry of Pop Culture. Thank you for watching and following us. Today's episode, we're talking about writing tools that we love. And I like to find like 1 or 2 things that I like and then I just stick with them and I never really expand from there.
I feel I'm very vanilla when it comes to like writing tools because I know a lot of writers use like Scriver and Pro Writing Aid and AutoCrit and all those things. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, Word, Google Doc. Yay! I am very simplistic. It might differ a little bit from me to you because you're fantasy, and so naturally you have to have world building as well. In one of our very early episodes, you talked about a website where you build your world and then you can move it around and all those things. Mm-hmm. What was it called?
Asgar's Fantasy Map.
Yes, that one. And so I think, different genres use different methods, I almost want to say, because I won't need a world building map. Maybe if I play Sims, but they already create like my world for me. I want to dip my toe in fantasy. Maybe that's something I'll dig into at some point. I think different people use different things. I'm one of those people that if I find something, I generally tend to stick with it. I know how it works and it works for me. Every now and then, I will find something that someone might have showed me or I might have seen somewhere. And then I would be like, okay, let's check this out. And sometimes I'm quite surprised. And I'm like, oh my goodness gracious, how did I not find this like 5 years ago? Like, why have I been struggling? And then other times I'm like, okay, it's cute, but it's not for me.
I'm totally with you on that because I'm the sort of person that's like, if I'm going to learn something and how to use it, I want to be able to keep using it and I don't want to have to relearn how to use it. So to change to something else means you're going to have to show me why it is 1,000 times better than what I'm already using and is going to do other things that I want better because I don't want to learn it. I have spent too much time already on that. It's time to write. It's time to get things done. The first thing that people ask whenever I see a new writer, what do you write on? Do you just write in Word or do you just write in Google Docs? Yes, Those are good options. Those are the basic options in this world. Notepad, Word, Google Docs. It's like, yeah, that's what you grow up with. I don't see why you can't use them. Notepad is the Apple version of Word, which is the Microsoft version. The Microsoft also put Word online and called it Google Docs. And they basically all work the same. You can make any document you want, format it in different ways, and you just have a page of writing. And you have to do everything pretty manually. If you have different chapters, you can format them in a certain way that'll pull them up so you can click to each chapter easier. But there are other ways to do it. There are other options out there. The one that I use is Scrivener, and that's actually a writing tool that comes out of England. And so the first thing for you Americans to know is because it comes out of England, it automatically defaults to British English. It'll want to put U's and everything, and it's going to want to, it's just different. So you have to manually switch it and say, I want United States English if you don't want it to be flagging all your words as spelled wrong.
I have the exact opposite problem because I use Google Doc. They keep highlighting flavor, and I'm like, no, I feel that is correct. Thank you very much.
Add word to dictionary. One of the things that I like about Scrivener above using Word or Google Docs or any of those others is each individual page can be formatted exactly like you would do in Word. But then what Scrivener does is each of your individual pages is a little icon. So say you have a project where you have scene breaks, you can put each of those scenes on their own little document icon in whatever order you want it read in. But if you change your mind, there is no trying to highlight and cut and paste. All you have to do is go to the icons and drag them, and it will reorder the way that it prints it on the full manuscript.
That sounds a lot easier. I don't know. I just don't trust it. It took me a really long time to just start like being comfortable-ish enough with Google Doc. And I think the reason I use Google Doc is because it's just like I can log in anywhere in the world and write. Or I can log in on my phone and write. With Scrivener, I feel I will have to sit at my computer while I'm working. I don't know. Is that the vibe? Is it not?
They do have a phone application. I've never downloaded it, so I don't know how it works. I can't really tell you how well it communicates with each other. Scrivener also has the ability to share a project. If you and a co-author are writing in the same project, you can both have access to the same project online. And all the people involved have to have their own version of Scrivener that they've bought for themselves in their computer, their own license. So if you don't have a co-writer who likes Scrivener, then it doesn't do any good for you anyway to have that option. But the other thing I like about it, this has happened to me quite a few times now, where I will write a scene and then I will decide I want to write it in another POV. And all I have to do is tell it to copy that scene, and it'll make a second page separate from the first one. And I can change the second one. And then on my screen, I can even have them up beside each other on the screen so I can compare them. Sometimes I'll have scenes that are written from two different perspectives in different books. I'll tell it, import this scene from this book and then show it next to this one so I can make sure dialogues match and things like that match while I'm writing it from the different characters' perspective. But it also has a notes section that is not inside the novel at all. I put up my map pictures for my world, character descriptions, web links, all of my resources I'm using for that project. I can pull up that resource as a second screen in it and be writing while looking at my resource at the same time, which is kind of fun.
That is always very helpful to have that. So is Scrivener is there a free version, or is there just a subscription that you have to do every month?
They do have a test version and test it for a month. So if you do write anything, you'll want to compile it out. When you compile it, it puts it into the format you choose. I usually choose Word document, and it will compile into a Word document onto my hard drive. You can also tell it I want different publishing styles. So you can tell it I'm going to put it into a bound book, and it will change all the margins and everything to the right settings. And you can tell it, I only want these pages only compiled this chapter and this chapter. You tell I want this specific kind of export, then it will put that cover page on there with all of your details for like an agent or something. I need to mess with the formatting myself.
Nice. That's nice. I feel like we'll have to have like a manual for that to be able to figure out what's happening in there.
That is the downside of Scrivener, is there is a very steep learning curve.
Yeah, I think that maybe is what kind of stops me from pursuing those things. I'm like, I really don't have time to write my novels. I don't have more time to like have to learn how a different app works. I'm like, thanks but no thanks.
No, yeah, exactly.
I actually have found that people use Reedsy. They have so many lovely things, that prompts and all those things, but Reedsy also specifically has a studio, I almost want to say, where you can write your manuscript, and they have like on your left hand side you have your table of contents, similar to Word, I also want to say, where you can do your different chapters and you can find them on that side. It's also nice because it tells you like what your word count is, and it will tell you like how many words you've written today. And so I'm not very familiar with that, but I have seen Rose use it, and so that's kind of the only reason why I know about it.
And I'm going to put a resource up that from pcmag.com. It's an article on the best writing apps. Now, I'm going to preface this resource with I have not looked into many of these. I have heard of some of them, like Ulysses and Final Draft, things like that do different things. Like Final Draft is best for screenwriting. So if you're writing a novel, that one may not be best for you. But I've heard Ulysses a lot of people talking about that, and Storylist, Novelize, Script Studio. I don't know how any of those really work because I've never used them myself. So proceed with caution. Definitely do your research. But this is a very nice website resource to find all of those in one place to be able to go and look into them deeper. And it has things like comparing their prices on it and comparing other things. So you can then click into it and go to their website and do deeper research on your own. Always do your research if you want to go into one of these, especially because some of them may be heavier on the AI. And if you don't like AI, you definitely want to avoid that. So make sure you know what you're getting into and what it is. I will put that resource up, though, for your own research.
These next few, oh my goodness, I just love them so much. I don't know how I haven't learned of this before and why it took me so long, but there isn't a day that I don't use this website, and I literally have it on my computer right now because I was working just before we started. And so this website is called Word Hippo. If you have not heard of Word Hippo before, go to Google immediately and go put it on your bookmarks, because for a writer, mwah, chef's kiss. It's the best thing ever, okay? So what is Word Hippo? Sometimes I will be sitting there and I'm like, you know what? I've kind of used smiled like 7 times in my sentence already. I feel like I probably need a different word. At the top, you go like, okay, smiled. And then you have like a list that comes out of all the synonyms where that could possibly be given for smiled. And it is the best part ever because you can also do antonyms, definitions, rhymes, sentences, translations. Like there's so many awesome things.
I learned about it from you. And so it's like when I'm editing now, I go word search, how many instances of this word do I have? Let's go see which ones I need to change and which ones I need to just delete altogether. And then Word Hippo comes in handy because I'm like, oh yeah, that word is a better word. And it's not always that I don't know the word. Like I usually know the word and I know what it means and how to use it correctly. I just don't think to use that word when I'm writing. It's just a matter of spicing it up with something that's going to keep your reader more engaged. What I really like, I love the next one on the list, the Emotion Thesaurus. And these people have a whole variety of different books that they do, not just the Emotion Thesaurus, but that's the one that like I really enjoy.
Girl, like seriously, in your fantasy world, I've always talked about your world Bible, right?
Yeah.
Okay. This is literally like the emotional thesaurus is my Bible that I have with me every single day. It goes in my laptop with me all the time. And it's like the best thing ever because I have my table of content and then I'm like, okay, do I feel frustrated? And then I go flip to my frustration and it's fantastic because it has physical signals, internal sensations, mental responses, cues of acute or long term responses, and then they have like cues for suppressed responses. And so I'm just like, I love it so much. It's the best thing ever. Like, goes with me everywhere, even when to Spain with me. That's how attached I am to it.
You know what I love about that the most is I took a class about nonverbal communication. I've talked about this one before, I'm sure. And she would often tell us, she'd be like, go into your own head and think about the sensations you felt and think about the facial expressions you used. And I went, you realize I'm a blank expresser, which means I don't express. But that it's just like, hey, maybe you want your character to be having these sensations that are different than what you would experience as well. And you want to spice it up. Like, you don't want all your characters to experience everything exactly the same way as all your other characters. But that gives you options of different ways you can express it that you may not personally have felt.
Once I'm done with my first draft, because that's basically the bones, then I need the meat. So when I go in for my second attempt at my first draft, then I take this baby with me. And then I get all that meat in, because when you're like, I wondered, and I'm like, what does wonder look like? And then I'm go, go find the wording, and then I put it in. Like, don't tell me who looked confused. What does confusion look like on his face? And then I just go to confused, and I'm like, oh, all these pretty little words. So, no, love it. I will attach this one to another resource that really helps me, and it's called Writers Helping Writers. It's a website that you go to, but it's by the same people who wrote the Emotional Thesaurus. So I think it is just their website that they have. I like it so much because, funny enough, the way I stumbled upon it was because I think I was typing in like a different type of smiles or something like that. So then one of the articles that came up, I was like, oh, this title reads interesting. So when I actually started reading it, I was like, oh wait, it's the same people who wrote the Emotional Thesaurus. And so I would suggest you definitely go check that out because it's been very helpful to me. I mean, it's a website, so you can go onto Google and you can find it anywhere. And they have so many different small articles that they talk about. Like, for example, I was literally Googling like lips. And I was like, what type of different lips do you get? And then they have descriptors for lips. And then they have like things to do with your lips. And then like key emotions and relations to lip gestures. And so I was like, this was so helpful. So definitely loving that one as well. I don't think I've told you about that one before.
No, you haven't. I love that. Amazing things you can put on the internet and find on the internet. And while we're talking about things like emotions, another one that I have found super, super useful, and I think paired with these ones, it's just incredible, is something called the emotion wheel or the feelings wheel. Have you heard about that?
I have not.
There's 100 different versions of how they organize it. So find the one that makes most sense to you. It's basically a big circle like a wheel, and there's like wedges. So you'll have your anger wedge and your fearful wedge, your happy wedge, your sad wedge, and those are like the basic emotion. But then it has layers. And like one layer is going to be if you are angry, but it's not extreme anger. It's mild anger. Then you have different words like you're bitter, you're mad, you're aggressive, you're frustrated. But then it has the outer layer of what if it's a deeper feeling? So let's go a little bit deeper, a little bit stronger, is furious, jealous, hostile, withdrawn, numb. So like what level of anger are we talking about here, and be able to express it well? And I think pairing that with the emotions thesaurus, like if I can pinpoint the level of the emotion that I'm trying to go for and then use the thesaurus to pinpoint the body language and things like that I'm going to use to express that level of emotion, it's just going to give much more depth and clarity to my characters.
I like that. I've never looked at the emotion wheel before. Didn't know that was a thing. You can literally just type in emotion wheel and the images will come up. So the next one I want to talk about, and I actually stumbled on this one by accident. This is a book that you can purchase, and it's called Save the Cat. And naturally, my brain is like, it's about a cat. Why do I want to read it? For my writing skills. But if you don't know like what the structure of your novel should be, if you don't know like what the beats of your novel should be like, this is like the perfect tool you can go to. And I think it's the most also easily explained tool that you can use to find those beats for your story and find those outlines that you need for your storyline. And so I have a link here from Savannah Gilbo, and she did a very nice little outline for you if you are unable to afford the novel or something like that, that she gives you like steps how to, do the different acts, and like what is the percentages of how far away in your book you should have this, and how far in your book you should have this many word count. So I thought that was actually quite interesting. They would start by going through the beats, like your opening image, your theme, your setup, your catalyst, your debate, your break into your second act, and your midpoint. And so I think it's great for a first-time writer, especially, to have these steps, because I think sometimes you have an idea, but it feels so overwhelming, because as soon as you sit in front of the computer and you realize you have to write a novel that is like 80,000 words or 100,000 words, like all of a sudden, like you seem so small in this big world of many words. And so I think it's a great way to just breathe, take a moment, and just categorize everything.
Save the Cat actually has a series of books now, and so it even has specific things like Save the Cat does screenwriting or something like that. So I don't remember the exact titles, but it'll break down different genres and different types of writing as well. So if you're not a novel writer, if you're going into a different thing, or maybe you are a novel writer, but you want to figure out how to get it into a screenplay or vice versa, I have seen writers who do that. And did you know, Nell, that they have a podcast? So when you go into your podcast, go and look, just type in Save the Cat and you will find their podcast.
That is so cool. I didn't know that. Huh? I have to go find my phone to go add it to my podcast list.
So I did want to give a couple of ideas for world building, and there are a lot of options out there that you have. I've had a few people who just use, if you type in D&D world building, there's a whole list of places that you can go that will help you build cities and maps and things like that. So it's going to depend also on how big of a map that you're making and how big your world is. You can also go to my favorite, Asgard's Fantasy map. And I love that one because I can make an entire world. And since I'm not just a fantasy writer, I'm a sci-fi writer, being able to look at my whole world and how it fits together is important to me. The other thing I like about Asgard's is they do let you get a little scientific and change things like how much water is on the planet, the humidity, the average heats, and cool temperatures at the poles and at the equator. So you can change all kinds of things. And it will show you with those elements what kind of environments are going to show up across that planet.
Okay, speaking of world building, this isn't as much a writer tool as it is a writer inspiration. And I will combine these two. So I will say Pinterest and Canva. Because I think whether you are an indie publisher or traditional publishing, whatever route you decide to go, Canva's great because you can do covers for it. You can kind of get an idea of who the characters you are. It just depends on what kind of writer you are. So if you're a very visual writer and you need your characters to like look at you while you're writing them, or you need to know what type of clothes they're wearing, so you need to design a clothing for them. Like Canva is a great place to do a lot of different things, a lot of templates that you can use. And then I would also say Pinterest is a great place for inspiration, that you can go and make yourself a little folder. It can be anything like pictures of clothing in whatever era that you are writing about. It can be pictures of characters that you feel your character is similar to, and it might be inspiration for you if you just look at them. And also add Spotify. Some authors love doing Spotify playlists, and they would listen to the music that they put in that little playlist for that specific book that they are writing to get the inspiration. Sometimes you would listen to a song and then this whole story just happens for you, and you're like, boom, that is the song that created this novel, and I will listen to it on repeat for the next year because that's what I'm doing right now. So those are kind of like three aspects you can use for a little inspiration.
Speaking of that kind of world building, I have a friend who uses doll maker apps for creating her characters and their styles. I need to be able to put horns on my person. And so I go into those D&D creators because they have a variety of creatures and elements you can pull from to kind of piece a creature together that maybe has never existed before and kind of getting an idea of it. One thing that I started doing years ago was creating my buildings that I wanted my characters interacting with regularly and building them in Minecraft, because then I could get a sense of the dimensions of a building, how hallways could work, how the different rooms would have to be organized for my buildings to actually feel real. The problem with it is it's not very true to life. The dimensions are weird, and so you can only kind of get an idea of the floor plans. But I just found a new one that a cousin of mine pointed out to me that I am starting to use. So far, I like it. If I change my mind, I'm sorry. It's called Tiny Glade. And you can build scenescapes like you do in Minecraft, except the proportions are true to life. And you can scenescape it out so you can easily paint in a river or paint in a mountain. You're not having to do all the mining everything down and building everything up to make it look how you want. With a click of a button, be able to change what the scenery looks like, be able to change the roof shapes with just a click and drag. For those of us who need more pictures than just what's in our head, let the computer games do that job for you and enjoy yourself a little bit along the way.
This is so very interesting because you literally just blew my mind, because I never thought of any of those things, though I kind of do have to admit you lost me at Minecraft. I was like, Minecraft? What are you talking about? I was like, that is so fascinating, but so weird at the same time. But I like it.
So the last thing we wanted to talk about were the editing tools. There is one very scary word when it comes to editing tools, and that is artificial intelligence. It scares people, especially here in the writing community, because having your work touched by artificial intelligence can make people not trust you as an author. And so you have to be careful about how you use it. Here's the thing about ProWritingAid, Grammarly, and AutoCrit. Yes, they have AI tools, but they are editing AI tools, not writing AI tools. So it's going to say, oh, let me tell you how it's coming off in the analytics. Analytics is an important thing too, because it's very academic and they may give suggestions that you'll not want to take. I highly suggest never taking all of the suggestions that any of the three suggest, because it will make your writing exceptionally bland. I like ProWritingAid the best myself. I will give suggestions, 2 or 3 different suggestions of things you can do if you want to, but I feel less pressured to change anything, where Grammarly will give you straight up, rewrite this sentence like this suggestions. And sometimes I'm like, Grammarly, just be quiet. And then other times I'm like, Grammarly, I know you're right and I'm upset about it. And AutoCrit, honestly, of the three, I've not used it as much. AutoCrit and ProWritingAid, the software themselves, do a lot of the same things. They will analyze your style. They will analyze your sentence length, your paragraph structure, your flow of your plot. But what AutoCrit does is they have a membership that goes with their program to a lot of learning tools and workshops. They're there for not just the editing tool, but learning the craft of writing. ProWritingAid and Grammarly don't have the in-depth, in-person workshops and education like AutoCrit does.
I feel we have shared a great deal of tools that writers can use, whether you are just starting out or whether you have been at it for a long time now.
We like to keep it short here on Tea and Tales. Get your fingers back on the keyboard and your pens back on paper.
And if you like what we are doing here and you like the topics that we are discussing and the resources that we are sharing, go follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads at Tea and Tales Podcast. and on Twitter/X and TikTok at Podcast Details. And go to that purple icon on your device and go give us 5 stars so that we can go up, up, up. It's our moment.
Happy writing.
Bye.